Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu had the audacity to accuse the United States of America of causing the deaths of IDF soldiers. Yeah, that's where we're at. Even though we have sent that country not tens of billions of dollars, but literally hundreds of billions of dollars in military aid, even though we have aided and abetted Israel in the middle of their slaughter campaign and genocide in Gaza. And in that case, we're talking about tens of billions of additional dollars so they can buy weapons and carry out these atrocities. None of that matters, because here you have the Prime Minister of Israel saying IDF soldiers died because of the United States. We can play this game. We can play the game of how many American soldiers died fighting wars on behalf of Israel. You want to play that game? But anyway, let's get to the details and what he had to say. We're going to show you the video first. Usually when he is giving a press conference or making a statement in Hebrew, it's because he doesn't want Americans to know what he's saying. So you're going to hear this in Hebrew with some subtitles. For the audio version of the show, or the audio audience, I should say, I'm going to read a transcript of it when we come back. So take a look.
ופשוט בשלב מסוים לא היה לנו מספיק תחמושת. ואנשים נפלו, גיבורים נפלו. חלק מאובדן התחמושת הזה היה גם כתוצאה מאמברגו. ואני גמרתי אומר שלא נגיע למצב הזה יותר. שאנחנו חייבים שתהיה לנו תעשיית נשק רובוסטית ועצמאית ככל האפשר. אגב, המצב הזה של האמברגו השתנה עד לבלי הכר, עם כניסת הממשל של הנשיא טראמפ.
So again, for those who are listening to the show as opposed to watching it, I'll read a transcript of what he said. Quote, "We paid a very heavy price in the war. Part of it is that at a certain point, we simply didn't have enough ammunition and people fell, heroes fell." The heroes he's talking about are the IDF soldiers who have been slaughtering children, by the way. Part of the loss of ammunition was also a result of the embargo. He did not say how many soldiers were allegedly killed or exactly when and where, but he specified that this occurred in situations where after the Air Force and artillery had tackled certain war zones, soldiers were battling remaining terrorists in and around booby-trapped buildings. He noted that this alleged embargo ended when President Trump took over, when his administration came into power. And he went on to say that, quote, he has prioritized establishing a robust domestic army industry for maximal independence so we don't run out of weapons or ammunition. Is that why Netanyahu is trying to get the United States to sign on to a 20-year memorandum of understanding? That's a fancy way of referring to the military aid deal that Israel is trying to get the United States to agree to, in which American taxpayers who live in a country that's drowning in $38 trillion in debt takes out more debt in order to fund Israel's expansionist military project. Yeah, that's what he's referring to. So what the hell is he also talking about here? Well, Biden paused delivery of 1,800-pound and 2,000-pound bombs, briefly, by the way, and it actually had no impact, and I'll tell you why in a minute. He also paused 1,000. Okay, my bad. So he paused 1,800 of the 2,000-pound bombs and 1,700 500-pound bombs for the IDF, and this was in the spring of 2024. Now, why did he do that? It might have been because of the fact that Israel was intentionally killing innocent civilians, and it wasn't a good look for the United States. So the Biden administration wanted to give the appearance that they were trying to rein in the Israelis a little. Now, was that actually the case? Hold, I'm gonna give you the details, but first, Joe Biden at the time told CNN, civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. That's what as Netanyahu likes to call them, heroes of the IDF were doing. They were specifically telling Palestinians to leave their homes, evacuate immediately. And then as they were going to the areas in which they were supposed to be safe, Israel would proceed to bomb the safe zones, to cause maximum damage, kill as many people as possible. That was the goal. And Biden realized that, which he had no problem with, by the way. Biden did not have a problem with that. He did have a problem with how that might make his administration look, especially as, we're approaching election season. We better get it together. We might make it seem like we care a little bit about human rights. Of course, he didn't. Because at the end of the day, his pause on those weapons didn't really materialize into anything significant. Here's a July 2024 excerpt from Truth Out. In the past 9 months alone, Biden officials have sent at least 14,000 200-pound bombs to Israel, Reuters reported in June, as well as 6,500 500-pound bombs, 2,600 250-pound bombs, 3,000 Hellfire missiles, and 1,000 unspecified bunker buster bombs, among other munitions. And Netanyahu and Trump officials like Marco Rubio claim that other weapons and ammunition were withheld. Is that true? Well, the Biden administration did implement some incredibly lax conditions on arms shipments to Israel. For instance, a February 2024 national security memo stated that required recipients of US arms to provide, or the memo required recipients of US arms to provide written assurances within 45 days that they were aiding or abiding by international law. Israel provided those assurances in a letter on March 20th, 2024. Oh, you're just gonna take their word for it? You can't see with your own two eyes that they don't really care to follow international law? And unsurprisingly, they did nothing meaningful to halt the aid. So in fact, in 2024, US military aid to Israel soared to its highest level in decades, thanks to supplemental packages that were greenlit by Biden. By the way, he even skirted approval from Congress in order to get this military aid to Israel. Plus, there's no evidence to back up Netanyahu's claims that a lack of ammunition is what led to the death of IDF soldiers. According to the Times of Israel, there were reports during the Gaza genocide of ammunition shortages, but the IDF consistently played down the significance of the issue. By the way, we're talking about the IDF, which is a military that's backed by a military superpower, the United States. Endless weaponry for the IDF, make no mistake about it. IDF is also a formal military. They were bombing and killing people who were unarmed. Most of the people they've killed are civilians. And Hamas doesn't have a military. Just think about the asymmetrical nature of all of this. And for Netanyahu to stand there and say, we didn't have enough bombs, it's amazing, man. It really is amazing stuff. So there is more here. So according to the Times of Israel, there were reports during the Gaza genocide of ammunition shortages. IDF downplayed it though at the time. In briefings with military correspondents, officials repeatedly gave assurances that military operations were not affected. I mean, just look at how they leveled Gaza. Obviously they weren't affected. And that soldiers would not be sent on missions without adequate means to carry them out. No military probe to date has found that a soldier was killed because the necessary ammunition was not available. I have watched a few videos of IDF soldiers getting killed. I don't know exactly how many of them have been killed, certainly nowhere near the number of Palestinian civilians who have been slaughtered. But putting that aside, some of the videos that I watched featured like a Hamas militant, honestly, shockingly grabbing munitions that hadn't exploded, and then ambushing IDF tanks with their own munitions. So Anyway, it's also notable that less than 2 weeks ago, Netanyahu gave a completely different reason for why soldiers were killed in booby-trapped houses in Gaza. This is during an interview with The Economist. If you can stomach it, let's watch.
The liberal democracies that fought the battles from World War II to Afghanistan to Iraq and so on, the ratio of combatants to non-combatants killed was 6-1, 7-1. In Gaza, because Hamas was forcing people to stay in urban areas at gunpoint, the ratio is about 1.5 to 1. And we lost a lot of soldiers because we didn't carpet bomb. We didn't do it. We didn't do.
People have different ratios as well.
I'm telling you, you don't actually, but that's not the point. It certainly wasn't 6-1 or 7-1, and we certainly didn't carpet bomb, which we could have done right away. We've lost a lot of people by my refusal and the IDF's own mores in making sure that doesn't happen.
I have never encountered any human being that I have wished ill upon more than Benjamin Netanyahu. All right, I'm going to hold back and be a professional. So he's blaming Biden while speaking in Hebrew, but claiming his own decision not to carpet bomb Gaza was what led to soldiers dying while speaking in English. Okay. Also note that he makes no mention of the hundreds of IDF soldiers who have committed suicide since October 7th. And we don't know the exact numbers, at least the most recent numbers. The last time any reporting on this has been done was in October of last year. But here's what we know. We know that up to October of last year, 279 IDF soldiers tried to commit suicide. 78% of them were combat soldiers, AKA baby killers. And so luckily, some people have a conscience and they realize it's wrong. And they will refuse to do any IDF service as a result. Like they'll pull out, they're like, I'm not doing this anymore. And they'll suffer consequences for that, by the way. I think that's the right way to do it. Other IDF soldiers, the ones who have a conscience and unfortunately had to carry out and see the bloodshed in Gaza, have taken their own lives. So 78% of them, again, were combat soldiers. Around 58 soldiers died by suicide. That was confirmed between October 2023 and October 2025. No mention of that from Netanyahu. Maybe they should have done carpet bombing. I'm sure that would have done wonders for these IDF soldiers. Now, in response to Netanyahu's unbelievable attack, former officials are boasting about just how much we helped Israel carry out a genocide under Biden's administration. So Democrats should feel real proud about that, I guess. Former senior Biden advisor Amos Hochstein, for example, is livid about Bibi's comments. He told Axios' Barak Ravid, Netanyahu is both not telling the truth and ungrateful to a president that literally saved Israel at its most vulnerable moment. Saved Israel? Israel's got nuclear weapons. Israel's got nuclear weapons, saved Israel. How about Netanyahu did a horrible job protecting his own people? How about that? How about the IDF took literally hours to respond on October 7th? How about that? How about the tens of thousands of Israelis who keep taking to the streets because they demand a formal investigation into Netanyahu that he refuses, by the way? How about we talk about that? But anyway, he later on posted on X, and we're talking about Amos Hochstein still. Let me be clear to journalists commenting, after more than $20 billion military support, largest in Israeli history, 2 aircraft carriers rushed to the region, deterring a massive regional war, defeating Iran missile/drone attacks, ×2, defending Israel at most vulnerable moments after saving countless lives of Israelis. Only acceptable response to the president of the United States, Biden, and the American people is thank you. Honestly, Amos, I think the only appropriate response to Israel and Netanyahu in particular is kick rocks, you can kiss my ass. No more support for you. But we would never have that because our country is occupied by Israel. So fellow top Biden aide Brett McGurk was also clear about Biden's devotion to Israel, vomitous. That statement by Netanyahu is categorically false. Biden's commitment to Israel's security, to include US military assistance, was unwavering throughout the crisis. And former US ambassador to Israel, Tom Nides, said the following: Netanyahu is wrong. Biden's support for Israel has been rock solid, and he did it at enormous political cost. He sure did. He deserves where he's at today, and so does Kamala Harris. Grow a spine and actually tell the truth about Israel. Harris couldn't do that, and she suffered for it politically. Good. Now, I hate the fact that we're dealing with the Trump administration, that's for sure. But let it be a notice to all the other Democratic politicians who think they can get away with prioritizing a foreign country over the American people. And one final word for Canary Mission. Israel does control our government, and you can kiss my ass.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.